So first of all, I want to take a couple seconds to just thank everybody for participating in this webinar. Over the years that we've been doing this, we've had some extremely good feedback on it, a lot of very good information. In fact, there's so much information that for most people, I will see their names over and over and over again to try to glean, some certain little piece of the webinar that maybe they didn't get as good of a grasp on as they would have wanted to the first time. My name's Jason Spangler. I'm the flooring division manager here at Wagner Meters. I'm responsible for not only the concrete side of stuff and the Rapid RH product line, but I'm also responsible for the small line of wood hand meters that we have for testing the moisture content of wood subfloor and finished wood products. We are doing a Q&A here, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send them via email. I'll get to as many of them as possible. If I'm not able to get to all of them, I will send a follow-up email to you directly to answer the questions. If for some reason, I know that when we do these things, sometimes people forget to ask a question or there's something that comes up down the road, don't hesitate to give us a call because that's what we're here for. My direct phone number is 800-634-9961 and it's extension 235. So without any further ado, first thing we'll get into, and I know we make kind of a mention of it in the webinar, but one huge thing that's happened in the last few months is the fact that the ASTM standard has changed from requiring 72 hours to get a documentable reading and has shortened down to 24 hours. So from the time you drill, insert the sensor, 24 hours later, is a valid reading for you to make an installation decision now. So when you think about that, put it in comparison to other types of moisture testing that are out there, it's the difference between 60 to 72 hours and 24 hours. So just something we want to make sure we make a big deal about because it does definitely help you and save you time out in the field. So one of the questions that we get a lot of is that throughout the webinar, we talk about depth-specific measurements and how critical it is or how much better the information is when you get it at the proper depth. So then people always ask, well, obviously I need to know how thick the concrete is. How do I do that? So one, great question. It's interesting when you have it in the forefront of your mind that you have to actually know the thickness of the concrete, how many different tells there are on job sites, but a couple of them, trenches if they're doing renovations and they're actually moving plumbing or adding bathrooms or other types of facilities. Elevated floors, you start looking for penetrations that are coming through the floor where they've actually cut out larger than what the penetration is so that you can see in between the penetration or the pipe and the profile of the slab that's up there. Sometimes in stairwells, if you have stairwells for elevated floors. Worst case scenario, one of the things I hear people doing is that they will take an actual and drill a pilot hole all the way through the slab. They'll do it with a smaller diameter drill bit, and they're going to do it in a couple of areas, not somewhere where they're going around and drilling holes all over the place. So as you drill the hole, you can use a piece of pliable wire and make a J-hook out of it, push it down through the bottom. When it gets to the bottom, it'll spring out. You pull it up until you feel tension. You can mark the top with a Sharpie and then measure from where the radius for the J was at on the bottom of the wire and the Sharpie. And it gives you a pretty good approximation of what the thickness overall of the slab is. Comparing that in a couple of different spots, most people feel like that's a situation where they've done their due diligence to have some comparative information to get as good of information as possible. We also get questions regarding elevated pan decks, especially in, or elevated slabs, especially in pan decking. So first part is people will call and they'll ask, is it drying from two sides because it's elevated and because the pan decking is called vented pan decking? The answer is no, it's only drying from one side. Situation is, even though it's vented, it's not venting enough to classify or to be doing what it needs to do to dry from both the top and the bottom. Second thing is that I always have to say, to start off with, the ASTM standard is completely silent on the appropriate measurement or the appropriate area to place sensors in pan decking because you have thin areas and then you have thicker areas. So that's the first side of it. The other side of it is what we recommend. What we recommend is that you try to identify where the thickest area is in that slab, and then calculate based on that depth a 40% drill depth into that area. So calculate based on the deepest section and then identify the deepest section, because that's where we want you to place the sensors. The next question I always get to that is, well, how do I identify where those deeper areas are? Some people, again, they'll drill some pilot holes on either side to find out where they're falling on the metal itself, to see if they're on the high side or the low side, until they can identify where the center of it is. Better way that I've heard of is that people will buy a fairly cheap, under $100 metal detector that works a lot like a stud finder for identifying studs and walls, but this one identifies metal, and it has a signal on it that's strong enough to pick up the high spots of the metal pan deck, but not so strong that it will pick up the deep areas. So you can scan across until you scan the top one, or scan one, move across till you scan another one. You know that you're on center at that point, and you can drill in the middle of it. It's not going to be perfect every single time. Some types of concrete are a little bit fussier than others, but in general, it's something that I've heard works very, very effectively. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. Again, my name is Jason Spangler. If there's anything that comes up or any issues that you have or questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to contact us. My number, 800-634-9961, extension 235. Thanks, and have a great day.